is A to Z with Mark Zinno, part of Locked On Sports Atlanta, and it starts now.
Good afternoon. Welcome to A to Z here on Locked On Sports Atlanta, where today I tell you got to go deep if you want to find improvement. Welcome in. We are live here on this Monday and a jam-packed show for you guys today. We have a lot to get to with the Atlanta Braves, even former Atlanta Braves, that we will discuss after the weekend that was, of course. The PGA Championship ends in very dramatic fashion. We had a horse race, if you guys care about that sort of thing as well. NBA playoffs, NHL playoffs. It was just a jam-packed weekend full of sports. I enjoyed all of it. And thank you guys for choosing A to Z here on your Monday as part of your daily sports listen at Locked On Sports Atlanta. Follow us on Twitter at Locked On ATL. Of course, I'm at Mark Zinno, MarkZinno. All right, I want to start today with the Atlanta Falcons, and in particular, one player. I came across a column on CBSSports.com that talked about players that were poised to make a jump in 2022. You know, players that were supposed to have a big leap into this season. And there were names on there like Tua Tagovailoa, of Miami. He's got Tyreek Hill now. He's got, all these weapons on offense. Gabriel Davis of the Buffalo Bills. Irv Smith, the tight end for the Minnesota Vikings, Kwity Payne, the DN for the Indianapolis Colts, Rashad Bateman of the Ravens. These were just some of the names on this list. And when I read the headline, players that are poised for a huge improvement, the first name that popped into my head was Kyle Pitts. Now, Kyle Pitts had a very good rookie campaign. He had a very good season. I don't think that he had a great year, but I think he had a really good year. And when you start to look at how we're going to measure Kyle Pitts and how we're going to measure what he's able to accomplish in this league, obviously the numbers are a big part of it. Look, when you are a pass catcher, the amount of balls you catch, the amount of yards you run for, and the amount of touchdowns that you bring your team are all critical parts of measuring what type of player that you are. It just is a fact of the matter. And while stats don't tell the whole story, at least in the receiver business, they kind of tell a big part of it, right? The guys who do the most of those, catch the most balls, run for the most yards, and get the most touchdowns for their team are the guys who make the most money. That's literally what it boils down to. So the very best in the game, see Devontae Adams, who got $100 million, does it because he does it better than everybody else. You can get into the nuanced stuff about how good their hands are, their catch radius, their route running, their blocking, all those things. And I think it's a big part of it. Because football obviously goes deeper than numbers, but still, ultimately, the numbers are what you're going to be judged on first. And I think I'm okay with that. And then you look at Kyle Pitts and you start to say, well, are we going to be able to judge him fairly? He had Matt Ryan last year, a terrible offensive line, no running game, on a team that averaged less than 20 points a game, and still put up a 1,000-yard season and had a whopping one touchdown. Then he goes into this year. The entire team is in turnover, $45 million dead against the cap. You have Marcus Mariota starting at quarterback or possibly even a rookie. Your offensive line hasn't gotten that much better. We don't know if we have any more running game. There's no help around Kyle Pitts at this point in time. And, oh, by the way, they drafted a guy who's supposed to theoretically catch as many balls as he did last year. So there's less ball to go around when he's not the prime number one target, as he was for a bulk of last season with Calvin Ridley sitting out for most of the year. So how do we judge Kyle Pitts? Well, let's look at a couple of numbers here, at least from 2021, that I think are worthwhile looking at. Now, I'm not going to necessarily get hung up on the yardage. 1,000 yards in this NFL anymore doesn't matter. 1,000 yards is not enough. It's 66 yards a game. Being a 1,000-yard receiver doesn't do it for you unless you combine it with something else. Yards after the catch, a ton of touchdowns, yards per catch, whatever it may be, or just sheer volume catches. If you're catching 115 balls, granted, if it's only for 1,100 yards, that's not a great yards per catch, but that's what Wes Welker made a living off of, right? Michael Thomas makes a living off that. He'll catch 110 balls and have 1,100 yards. He has like no yards after the catch. None. It's not his style. So Kyle Pitts last year had 1,026 yards, and he got it in the final game of the regular season, right? And it was just one of those deals where they got him across the finish line for 1,000 yards. Yes, I want to see his yardage go up. Is 1,200 realistic for a, quote, tight end? Yes and no. Considering the very best ones do it at that level, the Travis Kelce's of the world, the George Kittles, all those, the Zach Ertz's during his heyday, all those guys, that's where they were. The Rob Gronkowski's in his prime. Those are the numbers those guys put up. And they didn't do it on like 100. I mean, Kelce does it on 100 catches because he's in a completely different offense. But, Kittle didn't do it. Gronkowski didn't get 100 catches like that. They were 70 catch guys, 75 catch guys, and they put up huge, huge seasons. So I'd like to see his numbers get up around above 1,100, 1,200 yards. I think that's fair. Look, he only had 3 100-yard receiving games last year. And that's, I don't necessarily need to see more of that because a lot of tight end games are feast or famine, right? He had 163 yards in one game against Miami, and then the next week had 13. He had 6 targets. He had 2 less targets in a game. He had 8 targets and got 163 yards. He had 6 targets and got 13. The week before, he had 9 targets and only got 50. So it's hard to figure out, what the correlation is. It's just feast or famine when it comes to tight ends just because of the way they're using the scheme. So let's not get hung up necessarily on yards, although I think it's important. A huge number for Kyle Pitts last year was his yards per catch, right? Because this is a measure of not only, how good of a receiver you are, but how they use you and how you can stretch the field and how you can change things for defenses. Of players who caught at least 50 balls last year, Kyle Pitts was 6th in yards per catch at 15.1. The guys in front of him, Deebo Samuel, Jamar Chase, Tyler Lockett, Van Jefferson, and A.J. Green, strangely, with the Arizona Cardinals last year. When you have a 15 yards a catch or higher, you are somebody that is going right down the field. Or you've got a huge yak, right? It's a short catch and you're running. But the point is that every time you touch the ball, it's a big play. That's how you get that number. Like those are big play guys. Deebo Samuel, big play guy. Jamar Chase, big play guy. Tyler Lockett, big play guy. That's a good thing to have. That's a number he should hit again next year without hesitation. If that number comes down, I have concerns. I have legitimate concerns because I don't want Kyle Pitts to be a guy that is 7 yards, turn around and gets tackled. He's one of the fastest guys on the football field and one of the biggest. He's not supposed to go down easy. There should be a ton of yak for him wherever he goes. And he should be able to be a mismatch down the middle of the field against a linebacker or a safety. That's why he was drafted 4th overall. So they need to continue to use him in that manner. Another area that we're going to look at, and that is how many catches did he get last year for first downs? Not many people pay attention to this. However, Kyle Pitts caught 68 balls last year. 43 of those catches were for first downs. For the math majors out there, that's better than 63%. So almost 2 out of every 3 times Kyle Pitts caught a ball, it netted a first down. I want to see that number repeat itself. Why? Because he moves the chains. Why? Because on 3rd down, we trust he can get him the ball. Why? Because he keeps drives alive. He keeps his defense off the field. All those things are important. That is a key number. And I couldn't measure it up against other guys, as far as how many other guys in the league. I'll have to dig deeper and get back to you on it. But to me, that feels like 66 or 63%. But 2 out of every 3 catches is a first down. That's a really good number. That's a really good number. So, again, I am somebody who, when I look at all this and I want to try to measure improvement, yes, he only had 1 touchdown last year. I'm very well aware of it, folks. I don't know how to justify that. I'm not going to try and justify it. Arthur Smith has to get him the ball in the end zone more often. That's just what it is. There's just no way around it. If he doesn't do it, then that's on him. It really is. Like that really is on him. I can't make it any more simple than that. Kyle Pitts has got to be better than a 1 touchdown a year guy. 5 to 6, yeah. 7 to 10 would be glorious, but I don't know that we're going to get that kind of number. I really don't. Like, I don't know that we're going to get him in that range. And again, also, you have, Drake London now on the team, who's a big jump ball guy, and, they'll use him a lot in the red zone as well. So it'll be interesting to see where the touchdown share goes through the passing game. But I think when we look at Kyle Pitts this year and we see him going forward, I think you measure the yards per catch. I think you measure the first downs. I think you measure the total number of receptions he gets, and then the yards. And I would put him really in that order. He's got to get better than 75 receptions next year. He's got to. They've got to find a way to feed him the ball closer to 100 times over the course of the year. If you don't, you drafted a guy fourth to put up second or third wide receiver numbers. And that's problematic. Can't do it. They have got to scheme him the ball on a routine basis. He had 110 targets last year. When you look at sort of targets for the guys who had the most targets in the league, the highest level guys who continually routinely, Cooper Kupp saw 191 targets. Tyreek Hill saw 159. Travis Kelce saw 134. I mean, Zach Ertz and Mike Gesicki saw 112. So do you want to be in the Zach Ertz, Mike Gesicki range, or do you want to be 30th in the league in targets where Kyle Pitts is? He needs to be more top 15. He needs to be around 130 range. It would be my guess in targets. Those are the numbers that I'm looking at to see true improvement in Kyle Pitts next year. And I know the quarterback is going to be an issue, and I know we want to use it as a sort of excuse why he might not put up those numbers. Can't be. Arthur Smith drafted him. Terry Fontenot drafted him to put him here to be the focal point of this offense. Make him that guy. All right, coming up next, it was a very interesting weekend in Major League Baseball. We'll get to the Braves later on in the show, but a little bit of a scuffle that left a bad taste in the fans' mouth over the weekend. That's coming up next right here on A to Z on Locked On Sports Atlanta, free on YouTube and wherever you get your podcast. Search Locked On Sports Atlanta.